Hi everyone, this is Carlo and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm gonna continue my illustrated travel journal of the Nordic countries, this time taking you to the lovely Helsinki in Finland. I'm gonna show you how I've illustrated and composed these pages from start to finish, and what are the choices that I've made on every step of the creative process. After tracing the main lines with the help of tracing paper, I sketched my subjects by pencil, using my reference photos. For this view of the city harbour at sunset, I chose not to go into too much detail, and the same I did for this Ferris wheel. You can always add more details later during the coloring process. My third illustration will be a view of a swimming pool deck from above. So I traced just a few general lines, and the color would do the rest. I want to write my title on the top of the first page, write my journaling notes on the negative space, and add a few photographs as I always do. On this project, the first phase of the coloring process is the loose application of watercolor to define and block the color profile. For this sky at sunset, I'm gonna do a loose wash with a wet on wet technique, wet brush on wet paper. So I start applying water on the section that I'm painting. This will help the colors blend seamlessly and keep a soft look overall. I start applying a very diluted blue from the top, then a yellow-orange from the bottom going upwards. I use a diluted pink tone for the middle part, applying more water to blend in between sections. The sky of the second illustration follows pretty much the same process, but the blue would take a bit more space. I'm gonna loosely color also the wooden deck of my swimming pool with diluted brown tones, and for the water I'll dab sparingly some blue and green, making sure the page is well wet with water. Now, how am I gonna suggest the idea of a cityscape against the sky at sunset? Using my reference photo, I first define the areas of light, because with watercolor we work from light to dark. So with a yellow-orange tone, I block the areas of light on the image. If there are other colors visible in these areas, I make sure I apply some of these colors too. Now, for the areas in the darkness, I work with different shades of grey. I suggest you to never use pure black, because it will compromise all the values of your illustration. Always go for a tone of grey. While this dries, it's time to add more concentrated tones to the sky. Some streaks of pink, and some light purple, using water to soften the edges where needed. One more grey wash to darken the cityscape on the front. I love to apply watercolor loosely on my illustrations and then refine with water-soluble pencil at a later stage. Loose watercolor illustrations are perfect for travel journals. They work so well. One advice I want to give you is don't feel the need to create a perfect image, but enjoy the creative process and experiment with the freedom and a certain degree of unexpectedness that watercolor can give you. While I wait for the images to dry, I write my title. As I always do, I printed the name of the city on paper, turned it around and applied a layer of soft pencil. I used masking tape to secure it in place, and I retraced the letters with a pen. This will transfer the title onto your journal and give you a structure to complete freehand using coloring pencils. It's time to use water-soluble pencils to enrich the color profile of my illustrations. I want to add a blue shade on the shadow zones of my first image, so I color these areas keeping the pencil light, because I'm going to blend all this with a wet brush and I don't want too much pigment on the paper. I like to apply 2 layers of water-soluble pencils in 2 stages. The first one gets blended with a wet brush and kind of merges with the watercolor underneath, while I will leave the second one unblended and I use it to define details. I often add a touch of pink to make my images sort of dreamy, and in this case it also helps connecting in the skies of the first 2 pages. Here's the second stage I was talking about, when I add pencil details that will not be blended with a wet brush. This stage is useful to fine-tune particular patterns and textures, like for example the wooden planks of this swimming pool deck. My Uniball Signo white pens are great to suggest the water in my swimming pool. Well, it's not my swimming pool, it's the Allas Pool and Spa in Helsinki, where I had a very nice and relaxing day. I highly recommend it if you visit this city. The style of this project, dedicated to the Nordic countries, is characterized by the use of watercolor and pencils, but also little photographs in a mini Polaroid format, which I create mounting square pictures on white rectangular pieces of paper. If you watch my previous videos, you know that I really enjoy creating them. I'm borderline obsessed. Once I found a place for them on my journal, I glue them on and I write small captions on the bottom part with a Fineliner. Helsinki is a fantastic city to discover, where old and new dialogue so beautifully together. Now that the visual part of my journal is complete, and while I write my notes, I'm gonna recap for you a few pieces of advice that can be useful if you want to create your own illustrated travel journal. Choose images that remind you of particular memories and moments you lived in that particular city. Don't feel compelled to illustrate monuments or make complicated urban sketching if you don't feel like it. When you flip through your journal, you want to be able to recall memories. That's the most important component of it. Plan your space on the page in advance. Feel free to make preliminary sketches of the layout, taking into account where you're gonna place the text. Choose a simple method of coloring to make your life easy and create a cohesive style. On this project I chose pencils and watercolor, no fineliners and no additional scrapbooking elements. I wanted it to look like an illustrated fairy tales book. Use photographs to add visual information about the city and about your travel experience. Last but not least, have fun and feel free to break all these rules that I just gave you. Make it personal, make it your own. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, leave a comment below and like, share, subscribe and press the bell if you want to be notified when a new video is out. This was me, Carlo, and until next time, take care, be kind and see you soon.